everybody. Welcome to the Alan Show. My name is Alan Ojeda. I'm your host. So I just wanted to thank Shayla. Shayla is a realtor that I just worked with and got to know here in the last couple of months. And I wanted to invite her onto the podcast and just talk to her a little bit about her and what she's going on. So Shayla, thank you for coming on.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Awesome. So letting my audience know a little bit about you. Let us know where you're from. What areas you service and what you do.
I'm 45. I got into real estate right out of college. I moved from Wisconsin to Sarasota. I never had been here. My younger brother was going to Ringling Art School, which is a very world-renowned art school in the not only the country but the world. So a lot of people
Mhm.
do come to Sarasota for that reason. Anyway, I never knew anything about it. I just packed up my car and came, and within that 6 months, I took like kind of 6 months off and really got into real estate right away. Most people I found later in life actually start real estate or finance
Mhm.
lending in your
Yep.
field. It's not normally their first job, which I didn't know any better. And I got into it right away and have been selling ever since. I'm in the Sarasota area, which if you look at the big Florida map, Florida is a very big state.
Yep.
It is on the southwest coast, the Gulf Coast. It's pretty much right in the middle of the state on that west side there. We're about 3.5 hours north of Miami, about an hour south of Tampa, about 3.5 from Palm Beach. So I service all the Sarasota area, the
Mhm.
Barrier Islands. It's a very large area, so I do have a 3 county area from Manatee, Sarasota, and Charlotte counties.
Okay. So kind of like me. I got into lending right out of college too. Actually, I was still in college when I
Oh,
got my job. So I was a little bit fortunate that I met the right people and they got me in. So kind of when you first started, who got you in? Was it just like there was a posting for a job and you showed up, or did you know people in real estate already?
no, it wasn't really even anything that I mean, my parents always had, like, rental properties, but nobody really in my family was actually a realtor.
Right.
So, we were just sort of walking around, like, one of the barrier islands that it's called Lido Key, and on Lido Key, it's called St. Armand's Circle, and that's
Hmm.
where all, like, the boutique, like, European flair shops and restaurants and stuff are. So, we were just walking around there, and my mom, who I was with, and she's actually Turkish, and so I'm half
Hmm.
Turkish. She actually met some Turkish people, and we just started talking. And then they started talking to somebody else who was a realtor, actually doing like floor time, like kind of greeting people
Hmm.
on St. Armand Circle. And that was one of the pivotal moments of me thinking about real estate, and everywhere we went, everybody like that conversation kept
Hmm.
coming up as it does today. When you
Yeah.
go anywhere, people talk. It's so easy to have the conversation because many people own or they want to own or they're thinking about, getting out of a rental, or it's a very hot topic, and it runs the economy. It's one of the big components that runs the economy. So everybody's talking about it. And so I was just like, oh, I think I would do well at it. And I think I would actually love it because a lot of my family, both immediate and extended family, there are a lot of entrepreneurs in my family. So it just
Mhm.
kind of fit a lot of, and my business, my major was business administration.
Okay.
Not that, not that going into that field, I was like thinking real estate, but it did fit what I happened to have my degree in, I guess.
Right.
But that's kind of how it happened. Yeah.
Okay. And then when you first started, was it like how did you learn the business essentially? Because I think that's one of the things that nowadays I talk to a lot of people too that, like I said, real estate is such a hot topic where it's either
Yeah.
how do I sell, how do I buy, or how do I become a realtor? Even though I'm a lending guy, people think I'm a realtor, and it's like, no, I do loans. But anyway, so when you first started, what kind of helped you out? Did you have someone teaching you how to be a realtor, or was it just kind of like learning it on your own?
Oh, I still have mentors after 22 years, almost 23 years now in the business. I still am learning. I think when you stop learning, you're dying or
Mhm.
you're not evolving and you're not staying on top. So you're always going to learn. I personally got hooked up with one of a top producer in at Remax, and she's still
Mhm.
very much a top producer now to this day. She's killing it. And I was lucky enough that the broker I had at the time put the two of us together.
Mhm.
And I've had many mentors over the years. I think it's important to you just gravitate towards certain people, and I think it's important that you do have somebody to at least bounce ideas off, learn from, grow, and, I think anyone starting in real estate, I think it's good to be linked up with somebody or a
Mhm.
team, and it doesn't have to be forever. Like, I did that for a year, and after a year, I was like, "Okay, I could just kinda start on my own," and I'm kind of a one-man band. I've kinda always been a loner, generally speaking, and that's how I kinda operate my business too, in a sense that, I like things a certain way, and I'm a very high touch when it comes to servicing my clients,
Mhm.
and, a little A-type. But I think that a lot of the top agents kind of are that way, like A-type personalities.
Right.
But that's just, that's kind of how I started. And of course, I've been at different companies, Remax, Michael Saunders, Cole Banker now for a long time. And
Mhm.
it's good to understand the variety of the way people do business and how agents do business in different companies and just overall. And you kind of learn to mold with like what you like and how you like to do business. So it's ever evolving.
Yeah. Oh no, for sure. I think that's kind of the one thing that I've learned is that not especially right now with us there's now having the new market that we're in, right? I mean,
Hmm.
this is why we're doing this podcast. Like, if you would have told
Yeah.
me 5 years ago that I was going to be doing a podcast talking about real estate, I would have been like, no, because I'm a phone
Hell
guy.
no.
Yeah,
Hell
no,
no.
I'm a phone guy. I'm used
Yeah.
to being on the phones. I came kind of like I started off on a team just like you, where
Hmm.
how we were trained was very old school sales. Like you pick up the phone, you make your 80, $100 a day, and then you make appointments and you kind of keep it going that way.
Yeah.
Whereas like now it's like you still have to do that, but now there's this whole content space that's like now been essentially now you kind of have to do it because everybody goes online to see who am I working with, right? Whether you as an
Yeah.
agent or a buyer. So I think now
Yep.
that's like now that I think the new space we're in that we're having to learn. So that's why we're doing this.
Yeah, and I mean, if a picture says 1,000 words, a video would be exponentially more. So, and I mean, they do really get to know you. And if you watch video, you feel like you know the person. It's like,
Yep.
oh, I feel like I know your personality, and I feel like we would work well together, or not. Hopefully,
Yeah.
we would. But I mean, I've gotten calls from my YouTube. It's taken quite a while. The platform is a challenge, but like if you're consistent, people will start to call you, and when they call you they'll say something about a video and you know that they've been watching you and they because like one for example the lady said well she even mentioned Andrew who's on my YouTube channel too
Mhm.
and mentioned something he said or did or that I said or did and she just felt comfortable she's like I feel comfortable with you after talking to you as well that we would be a good match and I was like oh that's great that's the ultimate goal
Mhm.
is for
Yeah.
people to call you, obviously. And so it does work, but it takes a lot of work
Yeah. No.
if you work.
Yeah, no, it's definitely I mean, especially like I don't know if you, but I used to be kind of non-existent on social media. I would always do like the generic
Shame,
post.
shame.
Yeah, yeah. See, I was one of those. Like I was one of those that if I didn't have to be on my phone, I wouldn't do it.
Mhm.
But now it's like I'm seeing not only it's like you have to really it's like another business now, like a big part of my business where it's like I have to plan it and then everything that I research is like you just got to post more. It's like the more the better.
Right.
And so I think getting used to that, at least for me, has been pretty I want to say challenging. It's just like knowing that I have to now like do it as part of like my routine of what I do in my business is has
Oh,
been
it's critical. It's
yeah.
critical. It's like, okay, if you want to get in shape, you can't just go once and expect to be in shape. Like it's a
Yep.
routine, it's a schedule, and it takes a little bit to acquire that, routine or whatever. But after a couple weeks or whatever the old saying is, after 2 weeks it becomes routine. It'd probably be longer than that for real estate and the YouTube stuff. I was like, I do two a week. I'm considering going down to one a week because I've been doing two
Mhm.
per week for so long. But no, it's great. I mean, it gets the information out there. It shows that you're an expert in your field. It's providing the public with information that they really are searching for. If they're searching for it, they might as well find you, right?
Mhm. Yeah. Are
That's what
you
I think.
with the people that are interacting you with on social, would you say is more people from like your local community, or you're getting people that are coming from outside of your kind of the areas that you service, and that's how they're finding you?
I would say a fair mix because I get buyers and sellers. So if they're a seller, one I had call from Fort Myers, which is really not in my market, but that'd be closer to where Andrew lives, and that'd be closer to his market down there,
Hmm.
further south. Andrew's my business partner I work with.
Hmm.
A lot right in the immediate area, and I do kind of try to attract more sellers. That's sort of like my business model is trying to attract more listings to sell than buyers. But I definitely put market stats out there, and buyers do call from out of state.
Right.
We've got plenty of snowbirds here that want to have second homes here, so obviously cater to all that. But kind of a mixed bag. But I would say 65% local.
Okay. Were
The
most of the listings, because I know we dealt with when I met you, we were working with a condo,
uh
um, but I know that you usually work with much bigger price points, also bigger luxury homes, pretty much, right? Is that kind of the more of the market that you service right now?
That's where I gear most of my marketing toward, but I mean, like, I have a listing for 290-2.5 right now. I had one in Venice that I listed in the under 300 range, and I found the buyer too. So I never want someone to think that, oh, she only deals in a certain price range. Like, I
Mhm.
can the same business model, the same marketing works no matter the price range or the area, it just works. So
Right.
I never want someone to not call me for that. But yes, I do very much cater to that luxury high-end market, and I do market to get that. Obviously, if I worked hard to get my name out and I have a good
Mhm.
reputation, and I feel like, again, my marketing is far-reaching and it works, and it grabs the attention of the right buyers in that top tier. Plus with the Cold Maker branding that we have, it just reaches those people.
Right.
And I do it. You attract what you put out, right?
Mhm.
And so obviously, who doesn't want to make more and sell more and have bigger volume? And so if I'm spending on marketing, that's what I generally want to attract. Yes.
Right. Okay. Are you so because you dealt with those big ranges in price point?
Mhm.
Is there a difference between selling, let's say, $250,000 condo to selling a $2.5 million home? Like,
Yeah.
what's that process like, and how is that different?
In a nutshell, if you can sell the 250,000, you can sell the 20 million because the people in the lower tier, listen, it's all good. But every penny generally counts. Like every penny counts in that price range. Whereas in the upper tier, 5,000, 10,000 here, which will not sway or cancel a deal, generally speaking, because it's like, okay, they just have that discretionary funds or income that it's just not as big of a deal.
Hmm.
Whereas, when you're a first time buyer, which I listen again, call me if you're first time buyer,
Hmm.
first time seller too. Um, it's just there are a lot of intricate challenges when it comes to that versus the upper tier. Listen, the upper tier, it's not their first rodeo. Now when you go to list their property, you're gonna have a lot of competition in that top tier.
Hmm.
You're gonna be competing against agents that have been doing it longer than me, 30, 40 years, or they have the relationships. So there's competition on all sides, really. But again, if you could do the $250,000 deal, you could do the 20 million. That's how I've felt over the years as I've grown more comfortable and
Yeah.
confident in my abilities to sell those properties. So in a nutshell, that's how I would explain it.
Okay. So it's a little like the R side. It's kind of the same thing, because I work. So I think I've told you this. I work
Mhm.
with a lot of first time home buyers, so that's a lot of my market. And yes, so usually a couple $1,000s can be a difference between a deal getting done or not.
Right.
I've had a couple chances to now work, especially in the last 2 or 3 years. I've gotten now to the couple 800,000. I haven't been at the $1 million mark yet, but close to it. And yeah,
Uh-huh.
usually it's like if something at that price point, I've realized like if something's gonna fall apart, it's usually really has to do something with the property, like some major repair, or usually roof. That last one out, that's what caught us up was the roof, which, changing a roof on a almost $1 million home or multiple $1 million home can be pretty costly. Um, but that, yeah,
Right.
I would agree. That's at least what I've seen. But for us, at least, the process is the same. Like, we still got to verify
It
income,
is.
credit, like everything else still
Yeah.
flows pretty much the same. It's about 30 days. So, I mean,
Right.
that's at least how it works on our end. So,
And
um,
it's all good, like, working with a first-time buyer, they don't know what they don't know, and they
mhm,
need someone like me even more because I know that I'm going to look out for them. I look out for every single client. If you sign up with me, I'm gonna have your back, and I'm gonna catch things before they arise so that it
mhm,
softens the experience that you have, like the real white glove service, no matter the price range. So I don't want again, I never want someone to feel like that, 'cause I've got people have said that to me over the years, and I would never say no. I mean, as long as you're
yep,
realistic and it's in my market, I'm probably not going to ever say no
right,
to selling your property or helping you assist in buying a property. First time buyer, this is the 100th time you bought and sold property,
mhm,
so it doesn't bother me at all. And I mean, our market is generally what can you buy for 250 anymore? Not much
yeah.
anymore, but there are some. So.
Well, and so speaking about your market, like the market in your area, so what do you see right now is going? Are listings moving quickly? Are they sitting a little bit longer? Buyers, are they buying faster? What do you see going on your side of Florida?
Yeah, so, the last few months leading up to this election, people have been hesitant, kind of finicky, I
Mhm,
would say, um, leery to pull the trigger, waiting to see who the president is. No matter what side you're on, as soon as that election was over, within the 24 to 48 hours after, I saw a very noticeable increase in buzz, activity in the
mhm,
market, which was like, okay, thank you. Like, we have this over with, because we've had so much to deal with in 2024 that it's just was another challenge. So I'm definitely seeing properties that have been damaged come up, and some of those have gone very quickly to pending, actually, in a
mhm,
matter of like less than a week. I'm seeing some sit that are still priced high, and, I've had a couple listings, recently that went in 3 days because we priced it well,
mhm,
we moved it, you're spending less to carry the property. And then there are some that are unique properties that are sitting, and it just, pricing is really very sensitive right now. I am seeing some movement on the islands. I know I've talked to some sellers coming up here
mhm,
that they wanna wait until January because some of the islands are not as pretty as they were pre-storm, so just giving the buyer that full experience, but I am seeing movement on the islands. Again, in areas you might not think of, like the under 700,000, those I've seen movement in that area
mhm,
of the market, and so I think that people are ready. I think the demand has been built up, and, we're
yeah,
hearing from Lawrence Yun of National Association of Realtors predicting, like, rates might kinda start to just hover in the 6s or low 6s for 2025. I think, hopefully 2025 will just see some stability. I think that
mhm.
would be a breath of fresh air. I don't know what you're seeing.
So ours essentially, so same thing. Florida, especially here. I'm specifically here in Orlando. I
Mhm.
mean, we're still seeing houses are sitting, but there's still the demand is here because, well, Orlando's just a destination city, so people are always come in. I mean, right now we have all the snowbirds coming to town, so those are the ones, the New Yorkers coming in. They're here now and they get excited. We get a lot of people, of course, from out of the country that are just coming in that are like, "Hey, I'm here." And I mean, Orlando still sells itself, I guess you could say. So I'm still seeing that movement, the demand. I will say the rates. I mean, like I said, I deal with a lot of more first time home buyers, so that's usually right now a lot of my buyers are on the sidelines because of that is rates, payment. So I'm hoping that with rates improving, I mean, granted, I'm not gonna say they're gonna improve right in 2025. That's what we're
We
hoping.
don't
Fingers
know.
crossed. Yeah, fingers crossed. But I think it's either going to be one of those things where it's kind of like people are now just used to rates being in 6, 7%, which also that's also a conversation that I'm having where it's like, hey, this is just what rates are. Like 2-3% that we saw a couple years ago, that was I would
Mhm.
say a blip in the radar kind of thing. It happened once and that's about it. So I think now people are getting more used to it, and I think now people are now just like, okay, well, this is just what it is. It doesn't seem like it's going to get any cheaper. So I know a lot of my buyers are kind of getting used to that, and we're having to get creative. We've gone really deep into and actually this is how we did our deal with you. Our non QM space has been really active because I deal with also a lot of self employed buyers where a lot of them have the money, they just don't have sometimes they don't like to show it on their tax returns. So we have all these alternative ways of getting them qualified: bank statements, profit and losses. So we've been doing a lot of that, and then still are and a lot of my investors too that are still, they don't care about the rates. It's just more, is it a profitable deal, that are still getting deals done. So we've been seeing a lot of uptick in that space now, our non
Mhm.
QM space. Whereas like I would say maybe a couple of years ago is like I was doing the deals, but not as much. At least I'm not running as many scenarios as I was before. Like I have been probably in the last 2 years with those type of buyers. So that's kind of how I've been seeing the market going on here, and at least here in Orlando. But I know everybody kind of has their little, the pockets are different, and everybody local real estate is a lot different than whatever we hear in the news.
Oh, it's very hyper local. How do you feel like the insurance crisis, I hate to say crisis, but like they're gonna go up because we had the worst
Yeah.
storms I've ever witnessed, and certainly they're calling the 100-year storms. Like that's probably the biggest outlier that is really gonna,
Mhm.
be foreseen to be coming down the pike. Like, what do you see? How do you see that playing out in terms of the market and loans in general?
So I have seen premiums are higher, but I haven't had to. At least the buyers I've been dealing with, I haven't had to like deny somebody because of an insurance premium. Usually it's more we're dealing. I mean, we're really dealing with it up front during the inspection period. Anytime we're running
Mhm.
into like an old roof, we've been having to get creative with how we're going to fix this roof if the insurance does need to replace. I know that maybe of course, your side of the state with the storms is probably affected a lot differently. I mean, and like I said, I read the news. I've seen in the news that people are just letting houses go just as is, like because they don't want to deal with repairs, they don't want to deal with
Mhm.
insurance companies. So, how true is that? I don't know. I mean, you're the local expert. What do you say?
Well, yeah, there's an area of south of me where, like I mentioned, the ones that are still needing a lot of work need to be
Mhm.
gutted that
Yeah.
have been selling in like less than a week, and where, like, for example, the house was worth before the storm, it was worth about
Yeah.
1.1.2 million. They tore up the drywall so that it doesn't cause mold, make sure there's no mold, remediation, all that sort of thing. Pull it all up just to the bare bones of where it's safe,
Hmm.
and the electricity's back and plumbing's back up to working and everything. And pricing those at like in the sevens, the low to
Hmm.
mid sevens, and those two back to back sold in less than a week. And then one down the way, these are like canal front. The one at the very end for 1,000,000, same condition, went in, like, 3 days. So, for the right price, people
Yep.
if they have the means and they see the potential and they will like that area, and that's just showing you that that's gonna sell.
Yeah.
And those are likely cash deals
Mhm.
because obviously the condition of it, right? I wanna go back to what you said, though, on the insurance and the roof thing, because with respect to the roof, like, if you're buying a single family home
Mhm.
and it's stipulated that it needs to be replaced, you guys are still allowing the roof replacement within 30 days of closing if they haven't signed an agreement or something like that? Are you guys allowing that from your standpoint?
It depends on the insurance. So it's really like if the
Yeah.
insurance company allows that 30 days, the lender will accept it. So they're still
Okay.
being really there's still that flexibility. I think now though is it just depends on the company. I would say like I have my go-to insurance person that I typically talk to
Yeah.
for any quote. I just probably like you.
Yeah.
But I have been having to go, and I've been honest with them. I was like, hey, I have to look at it because there's sometimes he can't do them, and I don't know if it's just the company that he has, or
Right.
maybe there's just something. But I've had to go outside of my typical insurance person to get policies, and a lot of it,
Well, we all
yeah.
I was gonna say we all have to be really creative. Like
Yeah.
we can't just like sit on what we worked 5 years ago.
Yep.
Like we all work together. Like
Mhm.
you as the lender, me as the agent, hopefully the other agent on the other
Yeah.
side. Sometimes the most challenging part of this can sometimes be the partners that we work with, like the realtor or the lender. Generally speaking, we all kind of work. We all have ultimately the same goal, which is to
Mhm.
close the file. Nobody wants to
Right.
cancel unless
Yeah.
that's in the best interest of the client, of course, and that's first and foremost. But yeah, there's some definite challenges, plus they throw in this buyer broker stuff, and, like, I
Yeah.
know lenders require to see that document as part of your final underwriting process, right?
Yeah, now because before, I mean, it's just now affecting the cash to close, which, like I said, a lot of my first time home buyers have been hit with that. Now
Are you
before
having to see Oh, sorry to interrupt. Are you having to see any buyers contribute yet, or not much of that?
I have,
Ah,
yep,
you are?
yep,
How much?
I have.
What's the most you've
Uh,
seen?
we have a closing tomorrow, and they're contributing 0.5%, so it's not too
Oh,
crazy.
that's not bad.
Yeah, not bad.
What's the most you've seen so far that a buyer
2%,
is paying?
two
How much?
percent, 2%.
2?
Yeah, that's the most I've seen. I think But I think it
Hmm,
goes back to also where, and I mean, I only deal with it now from the number standpoint, but I have been more involved during the
mhm.
negotiation process because of this, though. So I, at first, I was like, oh, it's going to affect our cash to close, but low key, it's kind of helped us because now we're even more involved. We get more, at least on the lending side, we get more ingrained in the
Right.
process. So I think also like from our standpoint, it's like, well, it's now a good way to show like, hey, it's not just give me the deal and let's get it forward. It's like, no, like we got to make sure this deal works for the client, which has
Right.
been very, which has been like a wrinkle in this, where I wasn't really expecting. I was so, um, but I've been more involved because of that. Because yes, especially cash to close tight, we have to now disclose it on our estimates, which which before we were just always the 3% was getting paid by the seller, and we don't have to deal with it. So it has
Wow, that's
affected it.
interesting.
Yeah.
2%. Yeah. I mean, that's harder for someone that's buying like a first-time
Mhm.
buyer,
Yep.
Who, like, out of curiosity, that buyer that had to pay 2%, were they a first-time buyer? Are they seasoned, or they
Yep.
were?
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
The last couple buyers that I've had that have had to pay it were all first time home buyers. Yeah.
Huh. I wonder
Uh,
if they just don't know any better, then they're just like, "Okay," you
I think
know?
I know I know they've negotiated credits, but even
Okay.
then, it still comes out where they have to pay a certain percentage. So yeah, I've had a couple now where people have had to pay the buyer's commission. But I also lost a deal
Mhm.
because of that because they went new construction. New construction was like, we'll pay everything and upgrades. I mean, as a lender,
Right.
I'm a broker. I can't compete with that.
Right.
So that has happened as well. But then at the end of the day, for me, I know even if they go new construction, where it's kind of like your guys' advantage, if you buy, one day they'll sell, so you still keep the relationship. And that's
Right.
kind of my mindset behind it. Is like, okay, I didn't might not help you here, but if you decide to refinance or sell it and then buy another home, I still stay involved for that reason.
Oh,
With,
yeah. That's important.
yeah,
Yeah. It's a relationship business.
yeah,
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 it'll
no,
be interesting to see how it all shakes out. I mean, like, if you think about it, it does make sense for the seller to pay the listing agent and the buyer like, if you're hiring someone, you're gonna pay them for that service, right?
mhm,
Likewise, a buyer is gonna hire me to help them purchase
mhm,
property. It would make sense that they would pay me.
yeah,
But because that's just not how things have been done for so long, for decades, that it's just gonna take it doesn't happen overnight. People are getting accustomed to this, and you're still having new conversations with people that really don't know. I
yep,
actually had a conversation with a buyer, and he got really defensive with me on the
mhm,
phone, and ironically, his mother is a local realtor, and they had not talked about it. I found that very
yeah,
odd. Like, we talk about real estate so much ad nauseum, but I found it crazy because he's like, well, I bought so many properties and stuff. I've never had to sign that. I was like, well, when's the last time you had to buy a property? And it was like before August. I was like,
yep,
well, that's when all this all went down. So but it's definitely forcing in the conversation. It's obviously we have to do it. I mean,
Yep.
I'm wondering of the percentage of realtors out there that are showing property and not doing it because there's no tracking that I know of, not for my MLS anyway. There's no tracking method that requires you to, okay, in order for us to confirm this showing, you have to
Mhm.
upload your buyer broker agreement. There's none of that.
Right. Yeah,
So
low key, I'll see I'll see. I know they say you can't, and correct me if I'm wrong. You can't post the compensation for the buyer's agent anymore. But then I'll see on
you
social.
can.
Oh, you can. Okay, okay. Because
Not
that's
just anywhere but the MLS, which to me is like,
yeah.
it's like it almost goes against your fiduciary duty for the seller. So, in other words, if I'm listing a property,
Hmm.
because I've gotten asked this now, what's the compensation? I'm like, they are offering compensation. Because if I have an agent that's a weak agent and they're not a strong agent, they're not that they're not strong, but maybe they only charge 2%, okay?
Hmm.
Then am I going to argue, no, but my seller will pay 3%? That you have a fiduciary duty for your seller. It's
Hmm.
to get them the best net.
Right.
And I actually started just saying that my sellers will offer compensation because that's in the best interest of my seller.
Right.
Um, but it's going to depend. Like if they say, well, we're not going to show the that's steering. That's
Right.
completely illegal.
Right.
Does it happen all the time? I'm sure, yes, it does, but I don't know. It's all fluid. It's all going to keep changing. We're going
Yeah.
to have probably a very different conversation in, even 3 months or a year. So,
Yeah. No, I think it's well, of course, everybody freaked out about it, but now I honestly I don't really. I think you guys were pretty quick to get kind of like, okay, well, this is what we
just
need to
write it in the
do.
deal. Just write it in the deal.
Yeah.
You know what? You can ask for 10%, and my seller can
Yeah.
be like pound sand. But I'm also seeing, first of all, you could charge more than three. You can ask for
Hmm.
4% as a buyer's agent. And quite frankly, why should a seasoned agent or a seasoned lender or whatever get the same amount as a brand new person? Like,
Yeah.
how is that fair? When I have the knowledge and experience and I know how to represent my clients and all the marketing and everything I know that works and that doesn't work and has evolved, why am I getting the same amount as someone brand new?
Yeah.
Like in any other field, where is that a thing? you
Yeah.
know? And
Yeah. No,
so,
I think now, well, like you said, but this is where not only has it gotten a tough. I mean, I'm seeing this just because I talk to agents that are just not even agents anymore because of the tough market. Then you throw in
okay,
the
bye.
So that's so
And
now the so I think I mean, and I could say, and I say this from the lending side. I see LOs falling out of the market. It's a tough market, but then I'm also seeing, I was like, wait, well, there's less LOs means less competition for me.
right.
My business is to work with buyers, work with realtors. So it's like, okay, well, if I either work on myself and get better, and now learn how can I bring value to agents outside of like, hey, just send me a deal and I'll close it fast for you, because I don't think that's doing much anymore. I think everybody can do deals
Right.
technically. I think that's also kind of like the good side. If you are a
It's
seasoned
okay.
Yeah, if you are a seasoned vet, you're just seeing it as like, okay, this is just another wrinkle I need to deal with. I'm going to overcome it, and then I'm just going to move forward and keep getting business. So I
I mean,
think
at
that,
the end of the day, we can't lose sight of what's important. That is servicing our clients, having that fiduciary toward our client, whether we're on the buy side or the sell side, and putting that at the forefront. A lot of this is just noise for us, and it
mhm,
takes away from what we're truly out here doing, which is servicing our clients at the
yep,
highest level as possible. And I think that the top 1%, whether you're a realtor or lender, you will stand out. You will have those continued relationships as long as you do the right thing when nobody's looking, right?
yep,
The truth always comes to light. Do the right thing when nobody's looking. You're always going to come out ahead. And that has served me very well. Under promise, over deliver. Like I just live and die by that mentality, and
mhm,
people see it and over exceed their expectations. Like listing a property and putting it pending in 3 days. Would I ever go into a listing appointment and say, I would never go into a listing point. I don't care if it was 2020 or today's 2024 market.
mhm,
Say, "Oh yeah, we'll sell that in probably a week or 30 days." I mean, I would never ever say I
yeah,
would feel like a fool, and I would say, "Well, I set the expectation for longer, maybe even, and then try to blow them away with the marketing and the follow-up and the communication. It's all of the things, like the organic things that work, that used to work, that it's easy to get away from, with all this stuff happening, and
Yeah.
change is completely inevitable. It's just how you react and pivot is what's important.
Yeah, we dealt with it kind of the commission. So it was not commission, but when rates went up, we kind of dealt with that. And that's a conversation I was having with agents. Like when I started doing loans back in 2015. So
Mhm.
when I came in, you could give someone a rate and pay their closing costs to the rate, give them 3% in closing costs. So I for the first time in 2022, I got used to selling points, which that was
Okay.
new to me. So you're now charging, 3% essentially of the loan amount, which I
Yeah.
never had to do. And then I realized, like you said, the communication, the follow up, being available, all the I would say little things, all the basic things that are essential to being a good in our business is like, oh, I'm
Mhm.
doing this and I'm not getting shopped. Like because the first thing that I hear usually from buyers is like, "Oh, I submitted something and they didn't respond to me," or they're taking back,
It's like
or they're not calling me, they're not texting me. Agents, the same thing. It's like, "Hey, I sent a lead,
mind-blowing.
I'm not getting a follow up call." So then I'm like, "Oh wait, so if I just do the basics and I get really good at this, then I don't get shopped anymore." Like I only get shopped when it's really new construction, and that's because I get it. They just throw so much at the buyer that
Yeah,
first compete. But for the most
but
part,
you
I don't get
can't,
shopped anymore. Yeah,
yeah,
because
yeah.
of the fact that I'm like I do so much up front and I do a good job of it that it's like I don't worry really about getting shopped anymore points. If I have to go down on a deal, sure, I'll do it. I tell buyers all the time, I'm not gonna not work with you because of money. So let's just get a
Right.
deal done together. But for the
Yeah.
most part, that's never a situation anymore where it's like, oh, I'm talking to all these people. It's like that doesn't happen.
It's
So
exhausting to have to
yeah.
shop everything. I was listening to a really great, video podcast this morning. I don't know if you follow Ricky Carruth. He's a big
Mhm.
influencer in the real estate space. He's actually been on my channel too, and I forget who he was interviewing, but the guy that he was talking to, just kind of recapping everything that's going on, and he said,
Mhm.
quote, "Americans love," I don't know exact verbatim, but
Mhm.
Americans basically love service and convenience. I mean, look at Uber Eats, look at Uber. Like, service and convenience is what people will pay for. And if you're
Yeah.
your value proposition as what an agent or a lender in this era of real estate is
Mhm.
the utmost importance, because now you have to sell yourself even more on the buyer side, agent, because you didn't have to do that before as a
Right.
realtor. So, what is your value proposition? What are you bringing to the table? Why are you charging 3%? Why are you charging 4%? Why are you charging 1%? Like, what are you going
Mhm.
to give me for that? So when
Yep.
I interview with a seller this week, and he was so stuck on the 6%. Okay, because I'm still trying to get six to bring people in the door, because it's a
Mhm.
challenging
Right.
property. And I
Right.
said, you're so stuck on the commission. I get it, but if you're talking to somebody else, what are they giving you for that? Do you know? And have they sent you information? Like, I send a pre-marketing link to any seller that I meet with in advance of the appointment. So we're not sitting there talking just about marketing. I want them
Right.
to get to know me, get to feel comfortable. Like, is this relationship going to work? Hopefully forever. I would love
Mhm.
that.
Mhm.
But that's what the in-person should be more like, and of course, answer any questions about that, but, like, what are you doing for that? Not all agents should be treated equally, just like lenders. Like, what are you offering for service and convenience?
Right.
Which I thought was exactly that's I mean, you can go to, and I hate to compare vehicles, but you can go to the Hyundai dealership or you can go to the Porsche dealership. There's
Mhm.
always been the choice, right?
Yep.
And you know what you're getting at Hyundai, okay, you know what you're probably gonna get at Porsche. The
Yep.
service, the high touch, the white glove, you're paying for that.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
you've always had a choice, I guess.
Yeah. No, you've always had a choice, and I think now we're in that space where you can differentiate that, right? Whereas before, it's
Right.
like, and I've been guilty of it, where it's like, wait, what all you guys are doing is just going and open the door, but it's like, no, like then you break it down to like,
Yeah.
this is what we're doing.
Mhm.
I have a friend, I have a agent that I work with, and she's like, no, there's a psychology behind working with buyers that's like, it's not, it's all about feelings. And they're like, do you want to deal with people's feelings? And I was like, okay.
Feelings.
She finally got, I was like, yep, you're right. You guys do more than
Yeah.
that. And it's like, yeah, because it's not just like, okay, I'm gonna open the door, here's the house. It's like, no, it's
Ugh.
emotional, especially because, and this is an agent that deals with a lot of first time home buyers. It's like it's a very emotional, like you're there, you come along just when it's time to talk numbers. Like I've been talking to these people sometimes for months, showing them
Months,
houses,
years.
showing them houses, going, seeing what's going on in their lives. And I have to, and not only do I have to sure your part makes sense because you're coming in to help me, you're all, I have to then make sure that the feeling is right. And do you want to deal with feelings? And as soon as she said that, I was like, you're right. Nope, you win. You guys do hard. You guys, it's hard.
It is like I have like everything I do is a checklist. So like you say opening the door, there's like everything I do is a master checklist. We have systems that we have in place and it's a very like my way of doing it is like I very efficient, communicative. Like when you're going to look at property, it's like no, let's cut this down. Let's work smart, not hard
Mhm.
and be methodical with all the traffic, okay, getting to these properties, knowing the markets, and then the follow up and just, being able to rattle that off. But like it's a very like I have printed my checklist and it's like pages and pages. I've done video on it too, of like if you think we just opened the door, like look at all the things in
Yeah,
this checklist that I put as soon as I have a contract that goes in the file and boom, 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 boom. And we take out the things that we need, add things that are unique about that contract,
yeah,
blah, blah, blah. Same thing with a listing,
yeah.
you know?
Yeah, no,
I
I
mean,
well, I definitely say, I mean, and I could be wrong. I think because the listing side is would you say it's a little harder than the buy side because it's, you have to, the negotiation of like you said, you have
it
to convince the
depends. It
seller.
depends. It depends
Depends.
on how long you've been working with the buyer,
Okay.
how realistic they are, how many times they like are they, it very much depends. Like, are they a first time buyer? Are they like how long have you been showing property?
Yeah.
Likewise, for a seller, you might have like on the upper tier, some of these really high-end properties, you're in it for a long-term relationship, right?
Yeah.
So, you might be in this for the long haul. It's a 7, 8-figure, listing.
Hmm.
And there's going to be a lot involved, lots of communications, lots of showing, okay, like this is where you're spending money and time. So,
Yeah.
there's challenges throughout, and then you change the market, you change, you add a hurricane in there, you add COVID sprinkled in, you know,
Yeah.
um, it really varies pretty wildly.
Yeah, no, it definitely has been a lot. I mean, and like I said, I've only been doing this since 2015, so I've even seen the change. I got lucky that I was going up. So for me,
Hmm.
this is the first time that I've had to deal in the last 2 years with the challenging market. You
Right.
know, because the people, but then the people that I kind of taught me that came into the business, they came in during the business during the '07, '08 time when everything was just going down the drain. So they're just like, hey, man, it's actually not that bad. You can get through it.
It's
It's
not.
cyclical. So they give me, so I think also too, that's one thing I've learned is like just talking to people to stay positive in this market because it's easy to get real negative and in this like, oh, it's hard, rates suck, like people aren't buying fast enough.
Yeah.
I think that's like the one thing too that I've tried to stay away from is just like getting away from those mindsets and getting to like
Hmm.
either listening to podcasts or just talking to people that are just like, no, it's a different market, but we can still make it happen. And I think that's like
There's
one.
always where there's a will, there's a way, no matter what, closings are happening every single day. And why not be you? If you're
Yeah,
willing to do the work and you're not lazy, because there's plenty of that, like you can't just have stuff fall in your lap. And yes,
yeah,
after 22 years, stuff does fall in my lap. But there's a plenty of times where I do have to go out and hustle and I do knock on doors and I do mailers and I do video and it's all the things that you need to do to keep yourself out there and being
mhm,
top of mind and making sure people recognize you and understand that that's what you do and you are an expert and you exude that to the public because people are watching.
yeah,
They don't always comment. They might be watching you for years and not even reach out or comment once. All of a sudden you get a call. I got a call as far away as South Korea
Oh,
actually.
awesome.
What's the bad one? It's North Korea. Okay.
North
I was
Korea.
like, what is it, North or South Korea? Okay. Say the wrong one. Yeah, they came from South Korea. They said, let's look in Lakewood Ranch. And they were just a pleasant family. And I was
Mhm,
like, he's like, I've been watching your YouTube for like years over during COVID, especially
mhm.
to really learn the markets and understand that area. And I was like, oh my gosh, so people are watching
Yeah,
and you've got to exude yourself for what you want to attract
right,
also.
right.
So,
Um, well, I have so Shayla. So I'm gonna leave you off with just one final question. So I ask this to everybody,
okay.
especially for people that are still interested in becoming realtors coming into the business. What is your number one tip, advice that you give to somebody coming into that's trying to become a realtor in 2025?
Oh God, there's so many. If I had to pick one, consistency, be consistent. Pick what you want and be very consistent. Don't like and implement into your calendar, set a reoccurring reminder, whatever it is, whether it's video, knocking on doors, open houses, be consistent and dedicated with it. And eventually if you outwork somebody, you'll get, things to happen.
Mhm.
If you put in the work, be consistent.
Right. Okay, awesome.
Mhm.
Well, I appreciate your time. So, Shayla, once again for coming on the pod.
Thank you.
I'll be so just so you know, this episode will probably be released in about 2 3 weeks, and then I'll send you the video, everything, so you have it.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right.
Appreciate it.
I'm just gonna stop recording. Okay,
Okay.
stop recording.